to it. We have D, who is calling to us from Iowa. D, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Hi, Dan. Hi, Thom. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So I've been doing some studying on basic human attitudes towards the earth, and inspired by all the climate change and everything. But there's an inherent cruelty to corporate farming, and I don't think that modern corporations have this in mind when they're setting up their models, but I think that our basic human cruelty goes back to Genesis, chapter 1, verses 26 and 28, where God tells Adam to subdue and exercise dominion over the earth. I do my studying in King James because that is the preferred version of most fundamentalist sects. And the words dominion and subdue indicate where is it? I'm looking at it here. Trampling down, conquering, subjugating, violating.
Yeah, definitely.
Our entire attitude.
That verse is not the only one in the Bible as well. There's also a verse in Acts where Peter is having a dream, basically, about all these different animals, and they're talking about. It's I think it's like a vision, actually. I don't know if it's a dream. I can't remember. But he's saying like, looking at all these animals, and there's this controversy at the time about what was clean and what was not clean to eat. Okay, that's a huge thing with in Jewish history. But for the Christians, we don't have that issue. We're actually, as Christians, I say we're Christians, if you notice, in comparison to Judaism and Islam, don't have these hangups with meat, right? And it's because of this verse in Acts where Peter's like, actually all food, all of the meat is clean to eat, so don't worry about it. So that one line right there, right? And also what you're talking about in Genesis probably just completely changed the course of human history, right? When Christians go back and think about, oh, what do I think about animals? Well, what does the Bible tell me about animals, right? And how many animal lives have changed because of that idea. It's really interesting when you look at the text like that.
Yeah, that was part of my study too. That the idea that now everything is open to be exploited, and the more specialized we get as a society, we're not jacks of all trades anymore. So we get our meat and our produce very neatly packaged, and the vast majority of people have no idea, what that animal has gone through to provide you with your July 4th cookout or whatever.
Yeah. I certainly didn't. There's probably, and there's still a lot of probably ignorance that I have, like pet food. I don't even think most people know where that stuff's coming from. I couldn't tell you the exact process. Maybe Thom could. Yeah, I think that's part of it too. We've psychologically distanced ourselves from our food, and so that makes it easier for us to accept the cruelty that comes from the food that we eat because we don't see it happen. It's the same kind of thing when we buy shoes from another country and the shoes were made in a shop that paid its employees 5 cents an hour, and some of them were probably under 18, right? It's like, we don't see that happening. If we saw it in front of us and they're like, okay, well, they took it off the treadmill and here you go, you can buy it. Like, nobody would do that, but we're able to mask that with layers of marketing, as Thom was mentioning earlier, and and a global economy that allows us to partake in that. So there's a lot of complications there. I don't know if you had anything to add on that point, Thom.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I think that the thing is, I guess one of the good things though is that we can actually educate ourselves about these things now, and like it is trivially easy to find on YouTube and things like this footage that have been done often by kind of people with hidden cameras and things that show you what it's like in these places. And so at the very least we can kind of I mean, I wouldn't recommend spending too much time because it can be really traumatic, some of this stuff. But I think it is, if you're unsure, if you don't know where your food is coming from, like you can actually educate yourselves on these things, and then you can take a choice about whether you're okay with that, how you want to respond to that for yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
I grew up in a small farming community. It was very much individual family farms were the cornerstone of the economy, and the family farmer, the generational farmer, are the true stewards of this earth, and we need to start listening to them more and supporting them more, because they really do have a true wisdom about the earth. And I just wanted to put that out there for some people to think about.
That's an interesting perspective, Dee. I'm not sure if I 100% agree with that. What do you think, Thom?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I don't think I would quite go that far. But one of the things I think we hopefully we can agree on is that actually, like, whether you think that we should stop farming animals altogether, or whether you think that we should kind of that small time farming is okay. The kind of corporatized factory farming that we have is a threat to both of those kinds of lifestyles. So I think there's there's a kind of naturalism fallacy around kind of some of these small time farming kind of approaches, and things like regenerative farming are kind of held up as these like great approaches that can be good for the climate and good for animals at the same time. And the science just doesn't seem to really support some of these claims. But I think we can at least all agree that that this kind of industrialized farming is bad for in both contexts.
Look at Thom, meeting people in the middle here. I just threw him a curveball. I was like, no, I disagree. And Thom was like, well, here we go. Here's how we can meet that. That was a great answer. Great answer for that. Yeah, I agree. I think there's when you work with the earth with your hands, you're going to know more about it than the average person. But also, if you are a farmer and you are making a living off of it, there can be a profit incentive, and that's hard to eliminate. I certainly think that there are farmers that do, I'm going to say, care about the animals that they have, but their level of care may be different from what I think caring is, right? What they might think is okay or right or acceptable may not be what I think is right or acceptable. And I think that's what makes it hard for a vegan to agree with the idea that we should let there are some kinds of farming that are okay. There has to be, a very specific set of circumstances, for me personally, at least, to go that far. Like if I had a neighbor that had a chicken, and chickens will just lay eggs, right? I don't really care about eating those eggs, for example. That would be acceptable for me, actually, because that's just going to be a natural byproduct. Unfortunately, we've evolved chickens to the degree where they lay the amount that they do. So I don't have a problem with that. The problem is, of course, anytime I go to the store, I go to HEB, that's not going to be the case. It's going to be eggs that are from God knows what kind of circumstances. So I don't know. Any rant on the side, D, that you probably didn't expect, but as my honest answer, I guess, to that point. But anyway, that's me talking. What do you think?
I do appreciate the honesty of your answer. It sounds like you were more exposed to the industrial farming than the family farming. Am I right in concluding that?
And so maybe you grew up closer than I did to a lot of these kinds of animals, right? What I do know is that there's almost no farmers when it comes to like cattle, for example, that are killing their cattle at the end of their life, at their natural born lives, and are eating them, right? Even the local farmers are still cutting those cattle's life at least by half, if not more, oftentimes, right? Same thing with chickens, right? They're for chickens that are produced, broiler chickens, excuse me, right? Not getting that. They're getting a few months at most, even on the quote unquote more ethical farms, right? So I think that's where I have the problem, because even on the local level, they're still engaging in practices that are harming the animal just for human gain. You know, it's not benefiting the animal.
Hang on a second.
Oh, okay. Take your time.
Not
like we got a live show going on or anything.
And I get that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, I had to shut off my Google.
I got you, D. I got you. I'm just messing around. Go ahead.
No, and I get that, but I don't know. And if you know better, please do correct me. But I don't think that farming, such as farming cattle for beef, we know that the quality of the meat goes down the older the cattle get, right?
Sure.
It is. So they are bred for slaughter, and you know, the older the cow, the less quality beef you get. And at the end of the day, it is a business, okay? And some communities' entire economy is based on those businesses. And I don't know that there's really any way to shift them from a farm-based economy elsewhere.
You know, D, they said the same thing about slaves in the South here, right? How many towns were based on the economy of slave labor, right? I mean, here's my thing with that, right? I know that cows are bred to slaughter. That's the problem. I don't want them to be bred to slaughter, right? Like, if I can live my whole life without eating cows, then why kill the cows in the first place, right? I think that's where we get to. And I understand, and I know,
and I think
someone who raises. I'll let you get to your point, D. I just want to finish my thing here. I understand that as someone who raises cattle for a living, right? They can't exactly just transition to like plant farming, for example, and that's going to be like a 1-to-1. I know that it doesn't work like that. I know it's more complicated than that. So there's issues there that I'm not going to be able to solve. Maybe Thom can solve it. I can't solve it. But I do know that at some point something has got to give, right? If something is wrong, we can't just let it keep happening. If an economy is based on child labor, for example, which often happened in the United States and other places too, right? Then that's a systemic change that has to happen. We can't just say, oh, well, this is just the way it is. I just don't think that line of reasoning works. But go ahead, D.
Oh wow, where to go with this? I do hope that I don't start getting a bunch of vegan hate in the messaging, because I would be really disappointed if that happens. I'm not arguing a meat eating diet versus a vegan diet. I make certain choices in my diet based on sustainability and a humanitarian view. I think that we can be meat eaters without being cruel. But I really have to object to the equivalency of slavery to farming.
Why?
We're talking about human beings versus animals.
Okay.
And maybe I what I'm saying is that we have a good example in the generational farmers versus the corporate farming, because it is based on much more humanitarian care for the animals, much more wisdom in the husbandry of livestock. Are there asshole farmers? Of course there are. But I think I think there is an option for people who do still want to be meat eaters to support and purchase from local farmers and give a pass to the Tyson and the Hormel brands at the supermarket. And
I don't know, Thom. I want to give. I've been talking to you a lot here, D. I want to give Thom the chance to be a part of this conversation too. Go ahead, Thom.
Yeah, so I think this is a thing that I think comes up a lot, and people think, okay, if I can just buy locally, then this is going to, I can sort of opt out of factory farming, and that will be okay. And I think one of the ways to think about this is, even if we grant all the things you're saying about farmers and about kind of traditional farmers, which I think there's a question mark about that. Let's assume you're right about that. And we think about what that would look like if everyone tried to eat that way. The reality is, at the moment, the vast 80% of the land that we use for agriculture is to feed animals. And that comes with massive amounts of environmental damage, biodiversity loss, pollution, etc. And actually, if we try to go to these less intensive farming, that problem gets worse, because we need even more land than we're currently using to raise cattle and things like this. And this comes with huge environmental problems when it comes to, you have to cut down deforestation. One of the leading drivers of deforestation is land for grazing cattle, in fact. And land for grazing cattle is far less good at sequestering carbon than is any of the wildland types that we used before. Even if it's not a rainforest, even if it's like wild shrubland, that's still much better for the environment than the kind of land we raise cattle on. So it would be massively environmentally destructive if we kind of try to move to this sort of small farming, non-industrialized version. And then the other thing I think we need to bear in mind is, actually, even if you're buying from one of these places right now, those animals are still dying in the same slaughterhouses as your factory farmed animals. And these places are incredibly horrific as well. They are not set up to try to give these animals a humane death, even if that were such a thing were possible, to give them a painless death. They are set up to try to kill as many animals as quickly as possible and process them so that they can be turned into foods. And that means things like, for example, trying to stun them, trying to get your stun gun so it only knocks them out just enough so that their heart is pumping nice and quickly, so that the blood comes out of the animal as quickly as possible, because it actually slows things down on your line if you stun them too much, and then they bleed out more slowly. So I think even if we were just doing, okay, I'm going to opt out for myself, even if everyone else is going to go vegan or carry on doing this other thing, I think we really should question whether this kind of local model is actually either sustainable or ethical, even at a small scale.
There you go, D. Thoughts to that, and then maybe we try to wrap up some things from here.
Okay. Good points, all of them. The model that I'm arguing for is the model that I grew up with, and it's I'll just say that I respectfully disagree with some of your points, but I appreciate the conversation. It was good. It did give me some things to think about, so thank you for that.